Greetings, brothers and sisters. So this is going to be kind of a different sort of a video. I had a weird day yesterday, and I'll explain that in a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction. And so I watched this guy, Brother Belial, um, yesterday, and he, I watched the full interview, and it was quite extraordinary. Like, it was entertaining. The guy's a great storyteller. And I wasn't going to watch the thing at first, but I ended up hurting my back. I'll talk about that. It ended up being kind of a great, recovery, which was weird. So I got a little Thanksgiving Day story. Today is Wednesday, November 22nd, the day prior to Thanksgiving. And I decided to grab a few clips from the video and cover it in a, Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies. I was just going to watch a little bit of it, and it was very compelling. It was entertaining, and given my circumstances, it was, it was good to be able to watch it. And while that happened, I had another video by about Will Smith on this channel, and it got copyrighted by Will's team for some stuff he shared on YouTube, and that's happened before. I put together a compilation about Will being dishonest about his sexuality. And there's a lot of, it's some hours long. I've covered this in various videos. And, things that he said himself, things he's done himself. So somebody on Will Smith's team manually reviewed the video and copyrighted it. So I had to edit out three small clips of stuff from his YouTube channel and other stuff like that. And, it was such a petty move on their part that it was kind of what this guy Bilal is talking about. And there's a level of self-sabotage and just making things worse on yourself constantly that made me say I'm going to do a whole big long video on it, right? Because they suck so bad. Will came into the YouTube community as a, number one celebrity at one point in his career, somebody with a lot of money and resources, and they gave him a lot of privileges in YouTube, and his content sucked. It was, superficial, and he was, he has this fear base. He's fallen apart. Apparently, he was suicidal quite a bit, fallen apart, and some of the stuff that I showed in the video was him saying that he didn't know the character that he created that was known as Will Smith. That he wasn't even a real person. It was just this character out there, and this guy, Brother Bilal, admits the guy was suicidal, all these things, right? His content was, midlife crisis kind of stuff. He has this stuff about fear and conquering fear and all these other things. And so he also had money enough to get permission to, on his 50th birthday, bungee jump in the Grand Canyon. And, what about all the people who go in the Grand Canyon that day and want to see the Grand Canyon, right? And just Will Smith coming in there because it's all about him and, all these things. And so when they copyrighted me for their crappy content and, little bits of it, and, it's just, they after lying and being complete sucky people and just, defrauding the public, it was just the wrong move on their part. So I started watching more of the video and I liked it and I was into it. And my wife and I went out to go to the chiropractor and do some before Thanksgiving Day shopping at Costco, which was like a zoo. And then this is yesterday, Tuesday. And then we went to Whole Foods. And we got a couple of watermelons at Costco. I couldn't believe they still had them, and they've had good watermelons. Anyways. So I was carrying these huge watermelons in, and I twisted in a weird way, and something popped in my back. And then it was really, it was pretty bad. And I did these stretches that I do for the psoas muscle. And I have this thing called the right that and again, I'm not recommending things here. I'm not a medical person. I don't recommend things. I don't, people have to make their own decisions. I just share things that I do. And this is part of my story. I'm not recommending medical things here. Again, I don't do that. But I just talk about stuff. And, sometimes information is helpful for people to do research on their own and figure out what they're needing. So I did these stretches. I did the right thing, which worked, but then I had to get up. You're laying on this plastic, device, and it's jams you like in your where the psoas muscle are, it's a weird, it's unpleasant. And then when I went to get up, my back got like popped again. It was way worse. I couldn't even move. And I was like, wow, this is really bad. And I had to cook dinner, and I was going to make a special dinner or something. I was planning whatever it was, and there's a whole thing there. Um, I did some things I stretched, and I got it so that I could lay down uncomfortably. I couldn't really sit up or do anything and put any pressure on my back. And I had noticed that, I had some issues with my sciatic nerve where I was sleeping and waking up, and my sciatic nerve on one side was really bugging me. And I had seen a video from Dr. Berg that I wanted to watch because I had, it wasn't a big deal, but, it's something that was bothering me a little bit, some nerve pain. And both my brother and my mom suffered severe sciatic nerve stuff. When your relatives, your older relatives, your parents and your siblings have health issues, you pretty much see your future, right? I mean, that's why they ask you when you go into a medical facility about your family's medical history, because, these things do run the family, and not that you're going to get everything your parents did, and you could change some of it by lifestyle and some of these other things, but, a lot of these things end up happening to you as well. So I watched the video, and I actually had gotten a good stretch from Berg and another stretch from some viewer who sent me something that works really well. I shared those videos in a previous, video on my other channel somewhere, past year or so. And I watched Berg's video, and he recommended, or he said that lots of people who suffer sciatic nerve issues have a copper deficiency. And again, I'm not recommending anything here, but I looked into it, and I have a lot of the symptoms of copper deficiency. Could be something genetic, something that runs in the family. And also, sometimes you're taking other supplements, like I take zinc and some other supplements that niacin and things like this that actually take copper out of your body. So the chances of me being low in copper, and it's interesting as well because when I first got COVID, I had a person who said that copper would help. It was the first supplement I started taking when I got sick, a couple of years ago. I wasn't taking any supplements before that. Occasionally I'd take some herbs, some herbal tinctures when I got sick, but for the most part, I wasn't taking anything. And now I take like a boop ton of supplements because of just everything, and it's helped me regain my health. My health has been, relatively good the past, I guess, year or so. I got some form of COVID for the third time, pretty mild. It lasted only a week, not as bad as the other two times I got it. But other than that, I was, I had really good health last year. I don't think I got sick at all. Of course, the back thing was recent, and then I heard it like a month or two ago, and it recovered, and now I heard it again. And so I had some copper, and I looked into that, and that seemed like that was going to help me. But also, I've been doing these castor oil packs that I put on my liver. I had done this years ago, and my wife found a video about it and sent it to me. I said, oh yeah, I did it. And there was this girl, she was obviously knowledgeable about the subject, but really annoying. But she's developed a little, small business of selling, good castor oil with these organic packs, and they, help with all kinds of health issues, right? And, I put the pack on my liver and my gallbladder, and I've been doing it for like 3 days, and it's been helpful. And I put another pack on my thyroid, and I sleep with the one on my liver and gallbladder. It's helped me have really deep sleep. I mean, it's helped me sleep better, and it's helped me with other things. Like I've noticed an improvement. And I put the pack on last night, and I had taken a little bit of copper, so I don't know what, and I did some stretching. But then I went to get up, and my back was almost completely better, like, extraordinarily so. Like it's still stiff and tight, and, then I took some castor oil and rubbed it directly on my back, and, I was having a little bit of, like I pulled some muscles in my abdomen, I think, as well. And I put the castor oil on, and it just, throughout the night, it was getting better. I woke up this morning, and it wasn't 100% better, but it was pretty close. But because of that issue, I could only watch, I had to sit in bed, and I watched the whole video of this guy, Bilal. And he just rings up Will Smith and Jada Smith. I mean, it is a lot more, it's a lot more believable than I thought. I mean, I believed in the first place, but his position with them and all these things and the things that he says and he gives a good profile of these people, like these people he worked for and the people around him and the whole industry in Hollywood. And it's, Like I say, he's a great storyteller. I could never listen to Jada and Will this long, right? Like this guy is, he's an entertaining person. And people who are good storytellers are, I mean, they're compelling and they do well in this social media format. Whereas people like Will and Jada who are living a lie, are insincere and, creating a fake character that's completely unlikable. And they just pale in comparison. So let's get into it here.
He got hands, so no matter how soft he may be or feminine, Will hurt you.
You said feminine.
Well, you know, he has feminine tendencies. I'm not saying nothing that is new. You know,
yeah, that's true.
So it's at the end of the day, it's like I'm not casting aspersions. It just is what it is.
Right.
You know, I'm not. One thing I'm not going to do in none of these interviews as I promote the book and reveal a lot of things.
And your book is called Demonic Circle.
So yes, it's Will.
Where's my copy?
Well, okay, so let's get into that. So
okay,
the name of the book is Will and Jada Smith Demonic Circle.
Okay.
It was due to come out in December, but Will and Jada's team heard that I was putting out a book. Everybody knows if you Google, Jada book was supposed to come out in 2024. They heard my book was coming out, and there was a rush to get her book released before mine's.
Why do you think that is?
Because I have the information. This is the first time in history that someone from Will's Inner Circle is speaking. You don't have that. And there's nobody from their inner circle with credibility that has ever said anything.
So he kind of gets into why he calls it demonic circles. He doesn't specifically come back to that point, but he gives stories that would lead you to believe this is what he meant by demonic circles. And he gives a good take on Will being feminized later on in these clips. So we're going to go through these things. But the control stuff from Jada, particularly, and the Smiths in general, and they're blocking his book from coming out, but he's now done these interviews. And Jada said she's suing, but he says he has all the receipts and he has, taped conversations and other things. And so, we'll see how all that plays out. But I don't think Will's going to recover from this, right? I don't know how many people listen to this video, this interview live. Somebody posted up on YouTube, and that got like 700,000 views, but there's more in the podcast itself. So, I mean, this is, and people talk about it. But anyways, let's get back into it here.
So you come from Baltimore, very talented, known as the most beautiful girl in Baltimore, and now you come to L.A. Well, just because you come to L.A., your sex addiction is not going to stop, right? The little drugs you're doing is not going to stop. Your hatred for men is not going to stop. You thinking that you can use men for the come up, being beautiful, is not going to stop. So when you get to L.A., you're going to utilize, the only skill set you have is to offer your body and your beauty to a man.
Damn.
So we got to get into it from
shots fired.
Yeah, from a psychological aspect. So
let me just fill in some of the holes here, because again, this is a 2-hour video, and the guy talks about how he was in Philly with Will. Like, he knew Will. They were like, acquaintances, and Will had a bodyguard, and Will was getting a lot of pressure. He was coming up now as a more popular rapper. Like, he was becoming famous in Philadelphia. He hadn't yet, dropped that one song yet. And people were pressuring him to share his success with them, right? And he went on and, some sort of interview, and the guy said, "Oh, you're going to share the success." And, the guy kind of hassled him a bit. And Will called his bodyguard over, and the guy punched the other guy and really effed him up. And the cops put out a warrant for Will, and we're going to arrest him. And this guy, Bilal, lied for him and said the other guy swung first. The other guy started the fight, which wasn't true. And Will felt kind of indebted to him, and he became one of Will's inner circle guys, and he ended up bringing this guy from Philadelphia to L.A. And Jada came into the picture, and this guy ends up talking about what a horrible person she was and how she was playing and, grifting and manipulating Will, right, and using these things. She was basically prostituting herself early on in life. I think there's some more. Let me go back to it, and I'll come back and talk a little bit more about that.
To the top, period. That's how she got to L.A. She had to suck her way there. So she gonna have to suck her fucking way, because that's all she know. No man never imputed love. She's operating from survival.
Okay, let me finish this thread up, and then I'll talk about the proof that he has that this is real, right? That this is not some thing he's just making up. That there's some, provable evidence that supports his story.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's operating from a place of survival. So when she get to LA and these big actors and all, oh, you beautiful baby, she already know what to do. She knows they got money. She needs the money. They got access to movie directors. And listen, she gonna do what she got to do to get that access. Period.
And she got a $500 million access right now.
Somehow the picture didn't come out on that, so I just put this one in. But there's more here.
Look, I'm thinking Jada going, drop names and like I said, she did what she had to do to get on top, both men and women. She did because that's the only thing.
But you know what's so funny? She said on the Red Table Talk, because I think her daughter was talking about having polyamorous relationships and stuff, and kids just don't come up with that. They're taught that.
So I'm just going to let these these clips, I'm going to put them together, and then I want to explain and validate some of these things they're saying here.
Had an issue because she wanted me to put some prescriptions in my name for her. I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not doing that. So this lady's already admitted to being addicted.
Okay, so where's this guy's stories validated? Well, he was in Will's inner circle for a long time, was his personal assistant, and was around these guys, didn't like Jada. He puts a lot of blame on Jada, and she's a horrible person, but it's more than just Jada. It's Will, and it's the whole Hollywood establishment. And it's such a twisted family and twisted story, and it's really weird and, depraved. But he's talked about, he's profiling Jada here, and he said that her mom was addicted to crack or heroin or whatever it was. In Baltimore, she had a single mom, and so she lived, didn't have enough food, and she was hypersexual. She talks about masturbating when she was 8, maybe was sexually abused, and men started to notice her, like this guy said, she was the prettiest girl in Baltimore, and drug dealers started to notice her. She talked about being a drug dealer, being a criminal, but he said, in reality, she was just their hoe, and they keep her around, and she was servicing them and things like this. She wasn't a part of the gang, so to speak, but she did this with both men and women, and she was like a sex addict, which she's talked about, and this is how she was able to make a living for herself. And she was also addicted to drugs and had issues like her mom did. And they've talked about this extensively on Red Table Talk. So this has all been confirmed in one way or another, right? And that she was able to rope men in Hollywood after learning how to do it with gang members in Baltimore. She's very manipulative. You've seen this in her Red Table Talk and just all of the way she presents herself. The duplicity, the weird relationships, the open marriage, the lying to the public, the pretending, the faking, the undermining Will and being like really savage to him in different ways. And he gets into it, but what she just did to him by releasing that book and all these things that she said and throwing him under the bus and bringing him on the Red Table Talk and humiliating him there about the affair she had with her son's friend. I mean, not a good person, twisted, messed up, just not somebody who's, the Red Table Talk's supposed to inspire and teach people. And she is, criminal level, certainly immoral and manipulative person, disingenuous. And she's played this guy. And this guy talked to Will about it. And Will just got really angry at him because he was warning Will that she was playing him. She was grifting him and working him. And now she's kind of destroyed this guy in the same way that Hilaria Baldwin has destroyed Alec, right? And, very similar type of personalities.
Cherie caught Will in bed with Benny Medina. So
Who?
Yeah, Benny Medina. Benny Medina is who the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is based off, and he's a big talent manager. He had J-Lo, Puffy, a bunch of other. He had Will at one point, and he's a known homosexual as well. And he presents that. So, yeah.
Did you ever talk to Cherie about that to get confirmation?
Well, I didn't need confirmation because I saw the interaction between Will and Benny Medina. So it's a funny.
What was their interaction?
So this is crazy.
He takes a while to get to the interaction, so we'll come back to that in just a moment. But the guy, he was just being hired as Will's assistant. And this is confirmation of something that Alexis Arquette said, right? So there was a story around that Cherie, Will's first wife, walked in and Will was servicing Benny Medina. And Alexis Arquette said this, I've covered this in past videos, part of the Arquette family, someone who was in the gay community and heard this. And it was a pretty open secret. And, Will did a story about how Benny Medina chose him to play the Fresh Prince. And he hadn't been an actor, didn't really want to be an actor. He's a little bit nervous about it. But Will was playing somebody who was a gay character. So Will's first character, the Fresh Prince, was really based on a gay guy who grew up in the wealthy area. And
room is a bunch of guys from Philly or whatever the case may be. And, Benny Medina hollers down the hall, "Well, I'm going to come see you in a minute." So, so he comes up there in a few minutes and he pokes his lips out like he's going to kiss Will, right? And I'm like, oh man, I gotta beat the shit out of this dude. Do we pack him out? Like, all right, well, I'll just wait because I'm, I don't know this culture, right? And Will kissed this guy on the lips.
In front of you.
In front of everybody. Nobody does nothing. And I'm like, no, I'm just thinking, I'm like a deer with the headlights. I'm like, did y'all just see that? And where I'm from.
So this is a confirmation of not only Alexis Arquette's talk about this or quote about this, but also Kevin Kline's quote that Dwayne Martin, which he gets into, of course, that was the soundbite they dropped, and Will Smith making out in Will's trailer with Kevin Kline there. That quote has disappeared. I found it in like Us Magazine like 10 years ago. It was in an article, and now it's disappeared, right? Or something like that, right? And so Kevin Kline talked about the same thing. It was a very similar story to what this guy just said. And so it's, completely believable because Will kisses his son on the mouth, right? And that's the other thing. We've seen him kiss his son on the mouth multiple times and so many of these other things.
They was grooming him all this time. So after that becomes 6 degrees of separation. And we can get into that a little bit. Will plays a gay guy, but you got to look at how Will prepared for the movie. So he admits to watching a lot of gay porn to learn how to kiss a man, to learn feminine attributes, right? So I find that bizarre. They flew him out to Europe to watch live sex shows, right? And I'm like, yo, this, like, I'm from Philly, so I'm just like,
yeah.
This is he's going in. He's, in his mind, he has to know how a gay man interacts with people, talking, mannerisms, getting ready for a love scene with another man. I'm like, why are you, like, in my mind, I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, why, you have a successful TV show. Why go to playing a gay man? And why go to the extremes? Because anybody know Will, when he puts his mind to something, every character.
So later there's going to be a clip where he talks about how Will's handlers wouldn't let him play like competent, successful black men, famous ones or not, right? He gets into how Bill Cosby wanted to buy NBC and present, shows like the Cosby Show. And, and that's when they turned on Bill Cosby. They always have something on you, right? And so they wanted Will to present his community and himself in a certain light. And they're always trying to effeminize him. We'll get back into that when he says the comment there. But, I've said this before. This is something where this is a Hollywood thing. Like, he's talking about how bad Jada was in destroying Will, but clearly Hollywood was all about doing this to this guy, right? This guy used the word grooming. And, Will watching gay porn, which he's admitted to some of these things. And, of course, then once that happens and they have an open marriage and they're swingers and, all this stuff, he's watching this porn and it's arousing him, so he wants to pursue that and do that, pursue that element of his sexuality. And this is obvious. I mean, the things that he had to do when he came in. And I've talked about this before. It's confirmation for that. So they got Will Smith more than anybody else. Now, when I first started to cover Hollywood and when I first started to cover Will Smith, I made a video about how all these A-list actors had to wear dresses because Dave Chappelle came out and said they were always trying to feminize black actors and making them put on dresses. But then I realized I'd seen a lot of white actors in dresses. And it's all these A-list actors. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Mark Wahlberg, John Wayne even. The list goes on and on. Like, it's not a matter of which guys they got into dresses. It's who they didn't. The only two I could find were like Tom Cruise, and he had his own stuff, right? And the Scientology thing. And then Jack Nicholson, who played the devil, right? And both Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson have played the devil and have been in movies, with that kind of theme. So I thought maybe that's a trade-off, right? But they get these guys in dresses, and they humiliate them sometimes in these circumstances. But no one got as humiliated as Will. So Will played a gay character in his first show. And, whatever bisexual, whatever his sexuality is. But then his first major role, real acting role, was in 6 Degrees of Separation, where he played an openly gay character. And after that, he made The Wild Wild West, where, other guys had to put on dresses, but Will does a 5-minute belly dance where he's, rubbing his butt against guys' crotches, sitting on their laps, and he's, flirting with them and teasing them sexually, like in a very physical way. It goes on forever. The scene just won't stop. So, when I started making these videos, this is when I talk more like about the Illuminati than the controllers or whatever. I'm like, how much is this guy into the Illuminati for? Because he had to do this long striptease stuff. Then he's kissing his son on the mouth. And then his son was one of the first guys to start dresses, right? When he was 14, 15, he started to wear dresses. And then, the stuff with Jada, the humiliation that's happened since then. Him getting cucked by Jada, then having to do a sit-down interview with her and somehow validate her cheating on him this way with her son's friend, right? And I'm leaving stuff out. They just humiliate the guy over and over again. Of course, the slap with Chris Rock and all these other things. And so he's all over it, right? And Chris Rock had to wear a dress and flirt with Will in one of the episodes of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's just, full circle, right? This thing just goes around. But they really got this guy. No one's been as humiliated as Will Smith. He was the number one star. And again, he played in that one sort of serious role in 6 Degrees of Separation. And then, most of his movies have been kind of B-level action movies and, sort of tongue-in-cheek type of stuff. He's done a few serious roles. He's not really good at it. He's not really a great actor or anything like this, but he's been humiliated in this way. And he confirms it later on. He talks about the controller, so we'll come back to that when that quote comes up here.
So that means he had to get aroused by watching
that. That's what. And we end up finding that became, I believe, that became his addiction to men. That was the addiction to men.
Yeah, so that's self-explanatory here.
There's been rumors, and of course, like I said, Tisha Campbell,
good friend of mine, my sister,
didn't even know that Will owned her house with her husband.
Yes.
So you walked in.
So
tell me how you came to know her.
So this is the story where he talks about Dwayne Martin and Will Smith. Will Smith getting Will Smith from behind in Dwayne Martin's dressing room. Dwayne Martin was married to Tisha Campbell, was the actress who played on the Martin Lawrence TV show. And he gets into that quite a bit because, apparently this was, Will Smith bought Dwayne Martin a house and other things. And Tisha Campbell was left out in the cold and has not really come forward with this, but she knew all about it, obviously, right?
Everything is going through me. I'm the point of contact for Will. So, I'm getting...
You're getting it from all angles.
I'm getting it from all angles.
Now, what angle did you get when you saw according to you, Will Smith and Dwayne Wade in bed. Tell me about Dwayne Martin.
Dwayne Martin.
Well, Dwayne Wade next.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Okay.
I always get them mixed up. I be doing that in my show.
I saw that on one of the videos I watched, and you had to. Let me. He's like, oh, let me, because I was like Dwayne Wade, and you know I'm really good friends with Gabrielle. He like that. I never
wear
thought.
some dresses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen.
He grooming his son right now. So listen, and I.
Okay, so Dwayne Wade is a famous basketball player that has a trans son, and there's been controversy about that and all these things. But she's implying that Dwayne Wade also is, bisexual or something else, right? He's married to some famous actress. The big thing about this is that there's so much lying about this stuff from Hollywood. Like Hollywood wants these actors and everyone else to be presented as very similar to you, right? It's very similar to the average American. And yet, just like with the politicians, their morality and their lifestyle and their swingers and all these things. Like they want to be family people, have a good family, and pretend that their family is a normal family. I mean, even with the Smiths, not pretending that. Right here's Jaden Smith saying that, he always gets embarrassed by his parents and these things, right? And then trying to, Will with his fake laugh and all these other things. Here's a guy tries to kiss Will in the face unless Will slaps him and this stuff, right?
Every day, but we're producing this show, Jada and I. He said, I need you to hold Dwayne Martin down how you held me down for so many years. I'm like, what? Like, in my mind, I'm like, why do you need me to hold Dwayne Martin down on this little ass TV show?
Yeah, like, don't he got a wife?
Right. Well, we're just holding down, making sure his day to day, right? And I'm just,
so he basically wants you to be his assistant. Like how you were to him.
Yes, absolutely.
For a TV show.
For a TV show.
Because that's all he had going on. He had no movies or nothing.
No, but Will and Jada are producing the show. Mm-hmm. But that's, I'm going to get to, it wasn't about me holding them down so that he can, work at his apex. It was, he had me spying basically on Dwayne Martin because they were having a spat because Dwayne was messing with Lisa Ray's husband. I don't even notice at the time. I'm doing my product placement stuff.
That's why Lisa keeps saying Dwayne Martin took my husband in her interviews.
Yes.
Because she is still mad about that to this day. Dwayne Martin took my husband.
Yes.
So Will and Jada produced a show called This Is Us or something like this, right? And Will ends up doing a guest spot and playing Lisa Ray's husband or love interest or something, a boyfriend. And Lisa Ray's husband ends up going off with Dwayne Martin. He goes extensively into that because he was hanging out. He had to be there, his assistant, and he's kind of like a wingman, this guy, Brother Bilal. He's going to these bars, and they're having orgies and these other things. And this woman, I covered this, came out and said, Dwayne Martin stole my husband. And Will was involved in that because Will was bankrolling Dwayne Martin. He gets into all the things financially he does for Dwayne Martin later on in these comments. But Will's, not only buying him a house, but he's getting these jobs and providing an assistant for it. And Will was a very jealous person. And even though he was swinging and doing all these things with Jada, he's jealous of her. He's jealous of Dwayne Martin. He was very controlling. And, let's get into this here more.
TV show salary?
Yeah. Oh, listen. See, here's the thing.
Because TV actors don't get paid like that.
Well, this is Will's lover. Dwayne got money. Come on, are you kidding me? You got to look at, he bought his house for him. He bailed him out of bankruptcy. Will got subpoenaed by the FBI. Dwayne was about to go to jail for embezzling money, for hiding money in the bankruptcy with Tisha. So I want to see. It's a lot to it's so much to unpack. That's why.
So to lead up to this story, so I showed you this clip before about him talking about Will Smith getting Will Smith from behind by Dwayne Martin, and what his story is he worked as a producer or a assistant to Will Smith. And he said he enjoyed the lifestyle, first class plane rides and 5-star hotels and all these things. But when he was working with Will Smith on a movie set, Will Smith worked 16-hour days and he had to be there 2 hours before Will Smith and set everything up for him, and then had to be there an hour afterwards. So he had like 7 hours of time to crash, and even then he was being called because it was always like an emergency on the set of the movie, right? There's a lot of chaos there. And so Will Smith eventually screws him over business-wise. I'll get into that when that comes up in these clips. But Will Smith ends up like turning on him, and this was a big event when he walked in on Dwayne Martin and Will Smith. And it's a very long clip, and I'll break it up and I'll make some commentary about it. I'll show you that in a second, right? But it's a lot more believable now, and I believed it in the first place. But it becomes a he said type of situation. And there's no way to, unless they show video evidence, even that nowadays is not even guaranteed to be real. But it's a lot more believable because this guy was there, and he was then being Dwayne Martin's assistant for a while because Will Smith had him go work for him. And so he had the key to Will Smith and Dwayne Martin's dressing room. And they needed Will Smith on set, and he couldn't find him anywhere. And so that's the whole story that he walked in on. But there's a lot more context with this because there's other women who are saying Dwayne Martin is stealing their husband from him. And there's, this financial aspect where Will Smith, and this is, things that have been documented, this guy's saying that it's documented that Will Smith bought his house, and he later says he bought him a bar and these other things. So Will Smith is very generous and giving this guy jobs and, career and all this stuff. So there is some context now that wasn't there before that makes this story a lot more believable. And it was believable in the first place because this had been out there for a while.
See Dwayne and having anal sex with Will.
Let me process that for a second. Who was on top?
It wasn't a top. There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up, killing him. Murder. It was murder in there.
Okay. What did you do?
I froze. What did you, see, I'm not used to seeing. Listen, it's traumatizing. I've never seen it. I don't watch gay porn. I never seen a man fucking another man.
Will Smith was bent over,
and Dwayne was killing him.
Condom?
I don't know. I don't.
You didn't look that close.
Listen, even when I was with the deer and headlights, and I finally said, "Oh shit," and they turned around and said, "Close the fucking door," right? So I back out the door. I'm not going in there. Fuck no, I ain't going up in there. I back out the door, lock the door, I leave, right? So now I'm off of walkie-talkie, everything. So it's chaos on the set. Nobody can get in touch with Will. Nobody can get in touch with me. So I said, all right, I gotta leave. Then I said, do I leave or do I stay? So I said, you know what? I'm going to stay, but my position is I didn't see anything. Right? So Will says, I got to talk to you. So I said, about what? He said, you know what? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
So this is where it gets interesting, like Illuminati stuff. Because Will's going to imply to this guy that he's now at risk for what he's seen. Not from Will, but from Will's handlers and Will's people.
And he said, oh, you know what I'm talking. I said, well, I have no idea. What are you talking about? What we need to finish today? Like, I'm trying to get that out. So he said, no, we need to talk. So he said, listen, I made a call. Some papers are going to come here today. I need you to sign them. And I said, why am I signing papers? And he said, listen, I'm trying to protect you. So he says 3 things didn't make me scared because I fear no man but Allah. But I don't fear nothing but Allah. And he said that you remember the transsexual, I hope I'm saying it right, who got caught with Eddie Murphy. He said, you know what happened to him, right? I had no idea what happened to the transsexual that got caught in the car with Eddie Murphy.
Me either. What happened?
So I go home and Google it. They murdered him. Or the transsexual. I don't know to say him or her. I don't know what's politically correct. So I hope I'm not offending anyone.
It's transgender, but
okay, transgender.
Trans woman.
So okay, so they said, now you can Google this yourself. This is one of the things he said. They said that the transgender that was caught in the car with Eddie Murphy, where Eddie Murphy paid this guy to have oral sex, or the transgender to have oral sex, was about to start doing interviews. And back then, they paid, you know, the internet wasn't big. They paid you gobs of money to do interviews. And they said that the transgender person locked herself out the house, tied some sheets together from a roof, and tried to swing into the apartment from the roof. This is documented. Do you know anybody that get locked out the house that's going to tie some sheets together and swing into their apartment from the roof? Okay. All right.
You just break a window.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
this is important because he's saying that he saw this. Will Smith is saying he's now in danger, like this person that was with Eddie Murphy. I remember that story now. And this person got Jeffrey Epstein, right? In some ridiculous story. And I don't remember that part of it, but you could search it, doesn't matter. It's there. We know at least this happened. And, Alexis Arquette, who outed Eddie Murphy, died, I don't know, a couple of years after that. I mean, there's been a trail of bodies here. I mean, outed Will Smith in that, whatever, that quote I've read, and I showed you, it's in this video. And so Will Smith is implying this guy's life is in danger.
now I want people to Google that. So this is what he told me. And I go home and I'm on AOL. Plug in. Not high-speed internet at this time. And I was like, oh, shit, they murdered this person, right? Then he told me that he made a song called You Saw My Blinker. But Will's claim to fame in rap is he never cursed on records, right? We'd agree, right? In that song, he calls the woman a bitch several times.
I swerved left and I swerved right, but she was still tailgating me too damn tight. To the left lane, I tried to switch, then you saw my blinker, bitch.
So I believe it's like, you saw my blinker, bitch. And then now I tell people to go Google that too. And he's talking about slapping the lady ever. I mean, he's talking crazy. So he said, the powers that be got me to do that song. And he said, they said it will never make a light of day and they'll always protect me, even though I say I don't cuss in records. So I go home, I Google that. I do the search engine on that. It comes back, Will cussing on records. I said, this is crazy. Why haven't nobody ever called him out saying he never cussed on records? And he's obviously calling women bitches and talking about he gonna slap somebody on this record. Then he said he referenced the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the first Aunt Viv, of how he got rid of her on the show, right? And she'll never work again. And he said, I don't want this for you. And I said, yo, I never went back. Never went back.
You didn't sign the papers?
I didn't sign the papers. I didn't talk to Will. I went to go stay with one of my friends, and I just disappeared for a minute. But this is the craziest thing ever. Guess who brought us back together?
Who?
Jada.
So that's all weird, right? And then he gets in this story where Jada invites him to a party, and then he's going to talk about how it was really about Scientology. So let's get into that part. There he is, Will Smith with Benny Medina. And this is very indicative of this Hollywood, the disturbing Hollywood culture.
Give me all the information. I Google it. Guess what she was trying to get me to come?
Where?
To a Scientology center.
Oh.
I said, okay, no thank you. You can't even make these stories up.
So Will Smith and Jada Smith have ties to Scientology. So that's some of the power organization there in Hollywood. And there's, we've heard about all the Scientology stories. And there was a movie Will Smith made, After Earth. And it had all Will Smith's fear stuff, right? There was his son was really the star of the movie. And it was M. Night Shyamalan, and M. Night Shyamalan was a hot director then. And he made this god-awful, ego piece for Will, like a vanity project. And it was riddled with Scientology teachings and things. And it was very controversial. And so all of these things, like what he's saying here, now he could be crafting stories around real events. But some of this stuff is obviously true because, I mean, some of it's just admitted to, some of it is yeah, that's exactly how it is. That's how you would think about it, right? And it's very consistent. His story is very consistent with the things we know to be facts and these other like rumors and things that were around there. And he's saying these things, and Jada says she's going to take legal action. We suing is what she said. But some of these things it'd be interesting to see. And the Smiths are kind of done. I don't know if this is going to put the nails in their coffin, but her book and the slap with Chris Rock and just people are got Will Smith fatigue and these things, and everyone, Jada's never been really liked. Like, she's been Will Smith's wife, and Will Smith was likable, and she wasn't very likable, but she was there because she was Will Smith was likable, right? But now that people realize she's been torturing him and she's been they've been separated, they've had this weird marriage, they like him less and they don't like her at all, right? So all of this stuff is it's kind of backfired.
Yes. Yeah, but it's owned by the Church of Scientology.
Okay.
Which I have a whole chapter in the book about, because Jada went in on that as well as Will, and that was the sickest display of behavior I've ever saw.
So we'll just move forward here. But there was that, and there's more stuff here that, like, there's just a thread here now that he gets into more of the depraved aspect of the Smiths.
You're coming from a place of darkness. Like, I don't even care and I don't work for you, but I work for you because she runs the show. It ain't no control that Will has, because she has all these things on Will that he has to be a puppet.
Like what? Like, is it the homosexual? I mean,
no. We already dispelled that.
Did you and Will ever have closure conversations?
So let's get through this part about Jada, because he really lays it on Jada here.
Gay bashing Will. I feel that Will should just come out, right? Because it's going to eventually come out. My problem is Will is hurting more people protecting his secrets, right? Because you're trying to hide all these things and you're building up you're hurting so many people to try to hide what you're doing. So, for example.
Then he gets into how they mess with his business. So this guy, Will, paid him fairly well, and Will brought him into the Hollywood scene. This guy's very personable, and he met a lot of celebrities, and he met a lot of dealers, corporate executives who wanted to do product placement. It's kind of like that guy, Turtle, in the Entourage show. And so this guy ends up doing product placement with celebrities. And he knows all these celebrities, and he's doing this work, and then Will comes in with Jada, and they try to sabotage his business.
Hire you if you decide that you want to expose something. They gonna discredit you. This person's a junkie. We love them, but we had to pay for their rehab. We got video of them stealing money out of our pocket. They'll tell you, hey, give you your credit card, go shopping, go get yourself some sneakers, a jacket, a hat, high end. And then Jada will report the credit card stolen, but they won't press charges. So if you ever try to give information on Will or Jada, they automatically discredit you.
See, they first sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. But then on top of that, Jada would send them to rehab. They put this quote out before, and it was out of context. Or they would have photographs. The people would go and take money out of Will's wallet, and they would do this purposefully. And Will would, they would have this info on him now, right? They would have this, leverage against them. And it's just so manipulative and controlling. I mean, again, it sounds very believable given the context and everything else that's going on here, and how much Will and Jada have to cover up for their sham marriage and the rest of it.
Purpose. Let me see, where Bilal at? Hold on, let me see where you at. Hold on, you in here. Your picture too.
I love it.
Chapter Purpose, where you come to New York. to Africa. Saying excited. We ain't gonna do this right now.
Right,
You
right
here. You need to. My boy Bilal.
right.
Ended up losing 100 pounds during the training and filming.
I love it.
That's what we talked about, the African experience. Yeah, my boy Bilal Salam. You see that? That's your name.
So Brother Bilal goes on to say that they try to bring him back in, and Jada was organizing this. First there was a Scientology event, and then Will was releasing a book. And they wanted him to organize gift baskets from all of his vendors, all these corporate people, and to help promote the book. And so he spent his own money doing the gift baskets, and he went in, and they were treating him horribly, right? And they were like just disrespecting him. And I'm not sure if I got any more clips of that, but I'm just giving you some context here. And he said, so this is the reason he's doing this, right? Because they hurt his business. He lost, some friendships and relationships with some of his vendors. He lost a lot of money, and they really disrespected him. And then they closed him out, and he couldn't get in contact with Will and Jada, and they all froze him out. The people there, and he was just out all this money, and it eventually involved him suing them and other things that have happened. He's taken legal action, and that's why he's saying all these things, because of the way that he treated them and the way that they treat other people.
Then the slap happens. Now, I can't get in touch with him, but I can get in touch with Dwayne Martin, because Dwayne Martin called me after the slap to say what he had to say.
What did he say?
Will had his Tupac moment. I said, this guy's a f***ing clown. This guy's a f***ing clown. Both of them. That's what Dwayne Martin called me to say. Then even in the book for it as the QR code, his number is going to be, redacted, but showing that his number called into me. So certain ones will be there, like the 818 and whatever the case may be, right? I said, this guy is a clown. He said, Will has his Tupac moment and let people keep talking shit. I said, Will just almost destroyed him. I didn't say that to him, but I'm thinking, because these...
All right, this video's getting long. Let's just blow through the rest of these clips, and then I'll sum it up at the end. Some of them are self-explanatory.
We share sexual partners sometime, where other people call it swinging or whatever. But in Will's mind, that's an understanding that they have. So if they choose to bring in another man or another woman...
So what he ends up saying is that Will and Jada invited other couples or other people into their sexual relationships, their intimacy. And Will didn't mind watching some dude bang Jada if he was in the room, but if Jada did it on her, went out and did this without Will being present, he got jealous. And Jada was also just mean to him and torturing him and said like horrific things. Let's get into that.
Freud, Will, right? And, when Jada goes into her rants on Will, she tell him he got a little dick, he can't fuck and all, like, that begins to chip at a man's soul. That hurts. Like, it's like getting, like a slave getting whipped for your woman to say that you can't please her or,
So according to you saw her say that Will Smith had a small dude?
Oh, yeah. Oh, when she get, listen, a lot of people have, Jada has said worse. Right? Jada has said worse because...
she said even worse stuff. Like, let's find that here.
Thing to shake that, to say, yo, this chick not, like, I'm cohabitating with a woman that I shouldn't be cohabitating with. And this is something that maybe just the men audience is going to understand. Like, you got to shake that thing because they're controlling you physically. But Jada being a slick, Baltimore chick and having the tutelage of pimps and hustlers and they giving her the game how to succeed on some sly shit. And I see her applying this game because I'm from the street to my guy. But he's so, I want her and, she the baddest chick and so forth and so on, that he not paying attention to nothing.
Okay, so there's another story coming up here. Let's see if it's here.
Back into the story because this gets really deep. So when I hear her talk to him like that, I can understand, because sometimes you can beat a person so much that they fall into submission. And that is where Will is at, And, she would say things like, yeah, I'm going to put that strap on. I'm going to put my Tim boots, my baseball cap and strap on and teach you a lesson. And I'm just like, yo, I'm serious.
So, I was listening to this and I ended up saying to my wife, look, this is, she was interested in the Eddie Murphy thing. Like we grew up with Eddie Murphy was a big celebrity. And so, and she started listening to this. It's very compelling. And all of this is, in line with some of the things that we know to be factual, right? And of course, them being confirmed liars and the rest of it, right?
Said he had had a sex therapist because he was determined to please Jada sexually.
Let me just say.
When he talked about that, I said, what you mean you was determined with everything in you to please Jada sexually?
Let me say that to you.
They're just weird, right? They're really weird, the Smiths, because, they were having multiple affairs and then their marriage had been wrecked. And so there's no intimacy there. There's no trust. I mean, Jada hated him. I showed you, I've documented this where in Will's YouTube channel, when Jada showed up, it wasn't very often. Most of the time he was with his kids. But when she did, she just hated the guy. She had this look on her face, and when he talked, she grimaced. Like she just hates him.
Papers are going crazy. A divorce is imminent and so forth and so on. The final straw is when Will came home and caught Jada Mark Anthony on the couch at their home, right? And this devastated Will, right? I even had a conversation when Will wanted to kill himself. Right?
So this guy, Mark Anthony, remember he was a singer. And apparently at some point, him and Jada were on a TV show together. And they had an open affair there in the TV show. And it got worse.
He's gone. He brought Dwayne a club called Zen Lounge, and Will would come in there and just be drinking and this wasn't the Will. And one of the things that Jada has over him, Will lost it and beat the shit out of Jada. Beat the dog out of her. That so bad that they had to make a makeshift hospital in their home so that it couldn't get out to the public.
What happened was, this is what he said, is that Mark Anthony and Jada were doing it on the couch, and Will came home and he saw it, and he just, he's so insecure. All this stuff is believable. Will is the kind of guy who makes a joke and then looks around and makes sure everyone's laughing, and he makes a joke. His laugh is so fake and self-conscious. He performs, but he's, desperate for approval. It's really sick and sad, and he's one of these, it's like pathetic, right?
Will was a damn basket case. Like I told you, his lover, Dwayne Martin, and anybody can see it on the records. That club was owned by Will. That's what I'm saying. These private investigators brought me everything.
So, Dwayne Martin is somebody who financially has been around Will Smith for years, right? There's been all these rumors and things that people have said. There's been things he's done with, other men and witnesses to these things. And then there's, Will giving him money, buying him a house and doing all these other things and causing trouble in his marriage. And let's get back to it here.
I saw Will on, we were on set doing a film, and the director was like, we need you to now, we want to make your pants tighter, Will. Then we need you to walk with a switch, and if you could just move your hands, like we need you to be more feminine because this scene requires, and I'm like, yo, I can't believe, like.
So this is what I was alluding to earlier, and he talked about them grooming him, right? And he talked about these handlers that were around Will Smith who were a threat to him, this guy, Brother Bilal, because he saw the things that he saw. And now they had a, break in their relationship, right? And he was screwed over by Will, and these lawyers threatened him, and he said these lawyers don't like black people, and, he got into that a little bit. Is these handlers. And I don't know exactly what their handler's motivation is because they do this with white actors and, all races of actors, and they effeminize them. And what they've done in Hollywood, right, with the Hollywood morality being projected on, the kids growing up today with the internet and social media and all the things that have happened and all these different movements that have happened, these kids have been given the Hollywood morality. And they were pushing this thing, but they clearly were trying to feminize Will Smith. I mean, you can see it, and Will helped him because he had these sort of tendencies. And again, there's a fundamental dishonesty because he was in this marriage pretending to be like a normal family, and there was nothing normal about them, right? And they were trying to present this message to, or this allusion to America, because Will Smith was very popular and very trustworthy. I mean, this is why I started to cover him in the first place. I'll come back to that at the end. There's 2 more clips here.
$25-35 million a film. Will is still a worker. His bosses don't want me to disseminate this information. It ain't just they can't stop me. They can't stop me, but these people who are Will's bosses, who signs Will check, who allow Will to make $500 million, and we got to look at what did they make off of Will is what we got to look at. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if I got information that could affect, and I don't think it's going to affect Will. I think that Will think, Jada thing to Will is the strap on. So I don't know how that would
Jada's
go. But
allegedly pegging Will from the back.
Well,
she owned that nigga.
Yeah.
He's her
bitch. And it shows. And the behavior shows.
So, I have talked about this quite extensively, that I didn't want to make Hollywood videos. I wasn't interested in Hollywood and celebrities. I was making videos about farming, and, once in a while I'd talk about pop culture and politics and these things. But when I, was moving to do this as a full-time job, and my channel was taking off and people were interested in what I had to say, I looked at it and I knew that to make this financially viable and to expand my growth on the channel, I had to do celebrity videos. And very early on, this is 2014, 2015, I noticed that Will Smith and Tom Hanks and Ellen all were given the good guy narrative, the trusted person, and I knew that wasn't true. And that's all played out before us. I mean, think about where they were in 2014. No real scandals, rumors, but nothing really substantial, and where they are now. And at first, I didn't think there was much value in celebrity videos other than it helped to expand, my channel. And also it helped to show people that being a celebrity wasn't something that was really worthwhile. That wasn't something that had any real value to you. It was something that you were told was important, but those people were horrible. Like, they became horrible people and they lived horrible lives and they were unhappy. And so this American dream, being rich and famous and a celebrity, was the sort of cream of the crop of that dream, doesn't deliver. Like, it's not a worthy dream. When all these people are miserable, only the ones that get out, they make a little money, they get out and live a normal life. But when they go to Hollywood, they are compromised. They have to do things. They have to prostitute themselves in one way or another. And they have to deal with all these scummy people there. It warps them and it makes them miserable. And it takes them in the wrong direction. And they just pile on spiritual grossness and set themselves back spiritually. So I contrasted this with my spiritual teachings and my spiritual beliefs. And it was a good way to do it. So I didn't mind doing the videos. But as I've, and I had people criticize me and I explained it, whatever. They could do it, or they could understand it or not, or maybe they didn't care. But when they were saying there's more important things like political issues, I said this the other day. There was a meme where someone said the dots are so close together that they're almost touching, and yet most people can't put them together, can't connect them, connect the dots. And I said, yeah, well, it's only the dots they allow you to see, right? But I realized the celebrity culture was more important than all these other things, politics and the rest of it, because the celebrity culture was much more viewed by people. There's a lot more people who are interested in Will Smith than they are in what's going on in Israel. There's a lot more people who are interested in Hollywood culture than they are in politics or anything that's going on in the world. And it's the celebrity culture that's degraded, these Hollywood morality that's degraded humanity and allowed all these evils to be perpetrated and create the destruction and execute this plan. Like, the celebrity stuff has worked out a lot better than the political stuff. And so it's really important. And to have this couple, this family, just perpetrate these lies, and do all these things, and, be complete frauds. And then, these stories come out and they have no credibility, right? There's no credibility there because, they don't have it, right? I mean, they've blown up their credibility by living the sham marriage and having changed their stories, and nothing they say is believable. And someone comes in like this, this guy could be lying through his teeth, but he's a much more likable person. He's a better storyteller, and his stories fit with the rest of the narratives, where the Smith stuff is just all over the place. But it's very, indicative of the Hollywood culture, and it, how it warps people and makes them live these lies, and then, everything falls apart. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paramato, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.